like to call this April 21st meeting of the Sierra County Commission to order. Due to the national, state, and county COVID-19 declared emergency and public health order dated March 23rd, 2020, as well as subsequent executive orders limiting public gatherings in the state, this meeting will not be physically open to the public. All members of the public will be able to attend and listen to the meeting via Facebook Live at the following links: Facebook at SCE Emergency Services, Facebook at Sierra County Sentinel.KCHS Radio, YouTube.com at KCHS Radio, Twitter at KCH Radio, Dish Network Channel 371, and local radio at KCHS 101.9. I really want to thank our Emergency Operations Officer, Paul Tooley, for setting this up and coordinating it. It just is very much appreciated, and a lot of hours in getting this ready. Madam Clerk, will you do a roll call?
District 1.
Here.
District 2.
Here.
District 3. Here.
Commissioner
Present.
Luna, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you. This is a very unusual meeting, but governance continues, and we felt that it was important that we have this commission meeting. We have no guests. We're limited. We are maintaining social distance. We've rearranged the dais so that we're 6 feet apart. Is there a motion on approval of the agenda?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Day moves to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Luna seconds.
It is moved and seconded. Will you do a roll call?
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3. Yes.
Motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just interrupt for 1 second. We do have streams going everywhere except for our Emergency Services Facebook page. For some reason, we're having technical there, but all the other streams are working correctly.
Okay. The Emergency Services technical page is not up, but all the other services are streaming.
Correct.
And we'll see if we can get that fixed in just a little bit. Hope that doesn't inconvenience anybody. Is there a motion on approval of minutes?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Luna makes a motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting of March 17th and the emergency meeting of March 19th.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Day seconds.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Clerk, would you do a roll call?
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3. Yes.
Motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, I think for the sake of those listening on the radio, we know our districts, but the general public might not. So instead, when we do our roll call, if we can maybe say commissioner instead of districts, I just think it might simplify those. Okay. Because not everyone knows our districts. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's fine. Thank you for that clarification. We're going to do public comment. We don't have anybody in the chambers, but we do have several written comments. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll start that now. From Jim Taylor regarding the hold harmless tax. I don't expect to be attending any commission meetings if you're still having them due to the COVID issue. However, I'd like to bring an issue to your attention. The hold harmless 3% property tax is an ongoing and compounding burden to Sierra County property owners. I can't see where property values have increased to support this tax. Empty buildings, closed businesses, poor roads, and minimal services, and a shrinking Sierra County population certainly don't justify higher property taxes. Seniors, this is a retirement community, certainly don't need and can't afford excessive taxes. I believe Sierra County sports one of the higher tax rates in the state, while also being one of the poorest. It would seem this tax floated in about the time of all the spaceport hype, which has also cost Sierra County taxpayers unfairly, considering the return. I believe I was at the commission meeting when one of your current commissioners stated that she liked it because she liked to spend money. Probably a statement in jest, but certainly noted. I will be entering a protest with the county assessor, not only over the 3% hold harmless, but also their value assessment. I would encourage other property owners to do the same. Please enter this email as public comment for your consideration, the repeal of the hold harmless tax at your next commission meeting. Mr. Jim Taylor. From Robin Tuttle. Comments for consideration by the County Commission in its meeting on April 21st. I've read the proposal by the New Mexico Business Coalition for a safe, sensible, and incremental plan to get New Mexico back to work. I consider it neither safe nor sensible. The coalition premises its proposal on its reading of applicable research and what would be most prudent for our state. The governor and the state's health experts presumably have access to the same data. I trust their reading of this and other data and believe it is up to the governor to make the decisions on reopening businesses in the best interest of all citizens. I appreciate that the coalition recognizes and reiterates the safe practices the governor has in place. However, the coalition's suggested timeline assumes a status of the coronavirus in the state that it cannot predict. Please leave this to the governor and the experts. I would be annoyed in the extreme if, after practicing social distancing and not having ventured out of my home since March 15th, except for one quick in and out at the pharmacy and TRC on March 31st, if businesses reopen prematurely and put me and the other residents of Sierra County at risk. I continue to be mentally, emotionally healthy. Thank you for your concern for me and the rest of the county on this. Robin Tuttle, Hillsboro. Patricia Kearney on the reopening plan. I do not support this plan. The comparison to Taiwan is meaningless. It's an island, not a landlocked state surrounded by other states of higher rates of infection. Taiwan has much greater testing and tracing than we do. Germany also has more robust testing and did more early testing and is more prosperous. We are not comparable to either country. We've had better testing than some states, but not enough to really know what our underlying infection rate is. Better to compare three similar nations with dissimilar policies. Compare Sweden to Finland and Norway, for example, to compare the effects of being more open for business with the effects of having more closures. Sweden has been reluctant to close in contrast to its neighbors, and the data in deaths and infections show the results. Do we want to follow Sweden's path? April the 19th, Sweden had 14,770 cases, 955 in one day, and 1,580 deaths. Norway had 7,127, 91 increase in one day, and 181 deaths. Finland had 3,868 cases, 187 increase in one day, and 98 deaths. We have citizens here who ignore social distancing already. Requiring it will be hard to enforce if we reopen on an arbitrary timeline with arbitrary capacity numbers. You can't set dates and expect the virus to behave you want it to. Deaths and infection are still increasing. Just because we have no detected cases in Sierra County doesn't mean there are no cases. We've done all of 107 tests in Sierra County. Will you be able to control the spread realistically? Sierra County is a tourist destination. If we reopen for business too much and too soon, we are inviting potentially infectious people to visit. History shows with the 1918 flu pandemic that cities and regions did social distancing sooner and kept it up, suffered not only fewer deaths and illnesses, but recovered better economically in the long run. The claim that no deaths in our state are directly attributable to the novel coronavirus puzzles me. Did I read that wrong? People with underlying conditions are not all terminal. They live with chronic disease and manage it. Would you consider a death not directly attributable to someone with a survival but serious illness like breast cancer, heart disease, or diabetes? You seem to be ignoring the effect of COVID-19 infections on the sick ones who don't die. Time is up. Patricia Kearney. Veronica DeJager. The key whenever reopening occurs is how results are monitored and what constitutes significant virus issues. This must be defined. In every population that has reopened successfully, monitoring and testing for the virus has been vigorous, which has not been nor is likely to be the case in the U.S. or in New Mexico. Consequently, the risk becomes greater of a resurgence of the virus. William Landau and Veronica DeJager. Robert Wilkinson, keep doing a fantastic job of keeping our citizens safe. Thank you very much. Robert Wilkinson. Lee Forstner. Commissioners, last week the UN Secretary General warned that a global recession resulting from the worldwide coronavirus lockdown could cause hundreds of thousands of additional child deaths per year. As of this writing, less than 170,000 have been reported to have died from the coronavirus worldwide. Many Americans have also died this past month because they were not able to get the medical care they needed. Cancer treatments have been indefinitely postponed. Life-saving surgeries have been put on hold to make room for coronavirus cases. Meanwhile, hospitals are laying off thousands because the expected coronavirus cases have not come and the hospitals are literally empty. All of us know that most of the deaths here in New Mexico from COVID-19 were elderly with underlying chronic conditions. Obviously, the cure is worse than the disease. Our governor is detached from all reality, which begs the question, is this just election year politics? Worst of all, elected officials have overstepped their bounds here in America. If these so-called leaders are allowed to treat us as children much longer, many of our small businesses here in Sierra County will not be able to start up again. Our fragile supply lines of goods here in New Mexico will be broken and take time to fix. Even with our aged populations, we still have no cases of the COVID-19 in our county. Our local leaders must approach the governor to remind her that business tax revenue pays her salary and her minions, the state police. Countries like Sweden did not lock down their economy and place the population under house arrest and are faring no worse than countries that did. I dare say it is a lot colder there than in New York City, and Sweden's death per million from coronavirus is lower than in many lockdown countries. It is high time to end this hoax. Lee Forstner. Suzanne Kralstad. I have reviewed the New Mexico Business Coalition plan and have the following concerns. Supplies of masks for workers and customers. Have you been to Walmart to observe the percentage of people wearing masks? What is your plan for ensuring people have access to masks? The language in the plan says should rather than must use masks. 6 feet of social distancing is no longer considered adequate from a scientific standpoint, but the plan has not been amended to address that. People should at least be made aware of the risk they're taking. Public restrooms at recreational facilities could become vectors for spreading the virus. What is the plan to keep them sanitary and safe, especially knowing that the virus is present in bodily waste? The age and income levels before pandemic-related loss of income of Sierra County's population are not in line with the state as a whole. Therefore, a cookie-cutter approach developed for the state may not be a good fit for us. Suzanne Carlstead. Robert Sanchez Langston. On Monday, April 20th, 2020, at 2:54 p.m., Robert wrote, I just read this thing and I didn't see one word about testing and how it's going to work. It seems to me that the testing issue really needs to be resolved as part of the whole process. Without it, we may be shooting ourselves in the foot. With the exception of the above, everything seems to be reasonable to me, especially from community social work perspective as well as a business perspective. I hope we can find a reasonable way forward quickly to get back to commerce and being able to hang out with friends and family. Not that it matters, but as far as formatting goes, I would have put the bottom line up front. I assume that Mr. Sanchez Langston is referring to the coalition business plan to restore economic activity. Deborah Nicole, regarding Resolution 108069 requesting implementation of New Mexico Business Coalition plans to get New Mexicans back to work. Once again, the Commission is considering a resolution without giving the public more than a title. Is this resolution to request that the Governor listen to what the Coalition has to say, given further input from the scientific and medical institutions, decide how much the Coalition's recommendations to include in their plans for getting New Mexico business open? If this is the resolution, then yes, many of the Coalition's proposals seem good and worthy of consideration. If, on the other hand, this resolution for the Commission is to give our county permission to open business according to the Coalition without approval from the state government, if that is the Commission's plan, then I would have to disagree completely. While there have been no cases in Sierra County, less than 1% of the residents have been tested. Our population has many of the characteristics, obesity, heart disease, diabetes, smoking, that would indicate when COVID-19 hits this county, the severity of symptoms may be very bad. If the Commission intends to follow the Coalition's recommendations without approval of the state government, how does it intend to test for the presence of COVID-19? Will the Commission enforce requiring all employees to wear face masks for another month? This in spite of the fact that the employees in 2 establishments I recently visited did not wear masks. I really do not think that the Commission has the resources or the knowledge to decide when to reopen business in this county. We're better off following the direction of our state government. Deborah Nicole. Luann Johnson. Hello, Commission. I'm a military veteran, retired teacher, long-term resident, and homeowner in Tier C. I'm very proud of our county because we have demonstrated that if people act responsibly and logically, they can reduce or eliminate the threat of the virus invading our towns. I have also done research into the top 10 causes of death in the U.S. and found that over 650,000 Americans die each year from heart disease and another 600,000 die from cancer. 165,000 die from COPD, and another 150,000 from strokes. So that puts this virus fatalities in perspective. My intention, Luann Johnson. And that's all the public comment that I have. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Day moves to approve consent agenda items A through C as presented.
Commissioner Luna seconds.
Been moved and seconded. Ms. Clerk, will you do a roll call?
Commissioner Paxson,
Yes.
Commissioner Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Luna? Yes.
Okay, we're to presentations and reports. Mr. Manager, and I see that we have the sheriff with us as well, so proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Due to the pandemic, the county department heads have submitted written reports for their activities for the last 30 days. Let's start with the road department. Road department is currently working on multiple road projects. Most recently, and continuing to work on the Upham Road and the damage that's occurring from all the heavy truck traffic that's doing work out at the spaceport. Right now, they've repaired over 7 large potholes, and I think potholes is kind of a relative term. Some of these, the damage is 160 feet long and 12 feet wide. It's been a significant problem in the community. The damage at the Yost Bridge and the settling that occurred from the truck traffic. Incidentally, the county's meeting with the spaceport, with Doñana County, with the contractor that did the work on the Southern Road this afternoon, and moved to start working together to come up with a long-term solution. We have 2 road crew that are out. They've been deemed to be at risk of the COVID-19, so we've removed them from the workplace. The department is chip sealing approximately 1.5 miles at North Pluomas Road and installing 1 low water crossing in that area. The department is also doing prep work on the St. Cloud Road. And they'll start construction of the project in September, later this year. The misdemeanor compliance department, currently they have 70 active probationary cases in DWI compliance, 62 in misdemeanor compliance, and 131 on active pretrial compliance. Of the total, 36 are pretrial compliance are for DWI. So the total clients that the program has currently today is 263. We have 14 people on silver track monitoring and 15 on ankle monitors. Electronic monitoring fees that we've received, the DWI program, misdemeanor compliance, and UA receivables, we currently received fees of $1,335. Flood control, I know this is going to be a shock for everybody, but the Cochille project is complete. It took 4 years to get approval from FEMA for the project. Smithco completed the work in 2.5 weeks. Most importantly, the work is done and we had no complaints from the residents of all the work. And that is in very close proximity to a number of residents. So between Smithco, the flood director, who went out working with everyone, communicated with them, the project went very well. The project construction costs were $540,000. Engineering services was $139,000. And construction management, which was King Industries, was $15,000.
Manager Swingle, for the audience's reference, that's where Cochille comes into the Rio Grande there on East 3rd, and it's that bin wall that's been installed and protect us from flooding.
That's correct, and I have sent some pictures out to the commission. I think Smithco did an amazing job, beautiful job. It looks like this is absolutely a long-term fix for the Cochille Negro crossing there. Travis was pulled into emergency management operations. He has a wealth of experience in emergency services here as well as in other counties in the state. So when he's not working in flood projects, he's working as part of the emergency management team for the county.
And that's appreciated.
We have a report from Michelle Atwell for SCRTA, and they're currently advertising for one dispatcher at this time. The center is in lockdown status, meaning nobody can go into the facility other than authorized personnel, just to protect those dispatchers that are in the facility. We can't have any cases or pandemic issues within the four walls of the facility. So they're currently in lockdown, and they will be probably through the end of the month. The volume of calls has increased with questions on violations of emergency health orders, and been a lot of calls that they've received. Those calls have all been referred to the New Mexico State Police for resolution. Facility management, of course, they are doing a lot of the decontamination of all of our buildings, as well as they are providing the oversight and distribution of food in the food bank program that the county set up. And they need to really, really be credited with doing yeoman's work. They're the ones that's out meeting with the families. They're giving them the food baskets, boxes, and interacting with them. And they're very active in traveling throughout Sierra County and distributing that food.
Mr. Manager, we certainly want to convey our thanks to Ernie and his crew for the work that they've done. I've been in here several times, and it seems like every time I'm in here, no matter what time of day, there's some cleaning going on. And I know that they're really dedicated to that effort, and in the delivering of the foodstuffs to families in need. They are very highly appreciated.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the detention report. Current statistics are 33 inmates are in custody, 30 are in Luna, 2 are in Socorro, and 1 is at New Mexico Behavioral Health Institute in Las Vegas. Population right now, 70% are male and 30% are female. Our maximum count last month was 48 inmates. The minimum count was 42 last month. Under new arrests, we had 35 new arrests and 36 releases. We had 4 DWIs, so 2 of them were first offense and 2 were aggravated. Arrests by agency, there was 2 from the New Mexico State Police, 4 were miscellaneous, 16 from the Sheriff's Department, 13 from the PD, for a total of 35. With respect to COVID-19, the department has been highly active in, 1, keeping their facility cleaned and sanitized, as well as wearing personal protective equipment when interacting with inmates. It's much more challenging to provide the sanitation and the housing of inmates, keeping everyone separate, doing testing of inmates when they come in, as far as monitoring, doing assessments on them, monitoring their temperature, going through a questionnaire of travel and health issues at the time. It's really, really complicated a process, but they've done a fantastic job with that. And then you have a fairly lengthy report with the IDP and RISE grant that I won't get into, but you can certainly read that at your pleasure. Incidentally, we do have we received a letter from the Grants Collective, which the county sent Virginia Lee to attend the Grants course. Now, that was a 6-month course, couple of days a month that she had to attend. It was a $12,000 course that the Grants Collective actually, they gave us a grant scholarship and allowed Virginia to attend. And she successfully graduated the program. Pretty proud of her. There's a lot of work. And she's written a number of grants for the county. This is just going to improve her ability to prepare grants, and I look for a much favorable, more response in our requests and applications that we submit in the future. Although we've been pretty successful in grant applications anyway.
Yeah, congratulations to her.
From the administration side and emergency management, we give an update to the commissioners every day on where we're at. And as of last night, the state has had 1,971 cases, while 38,755 tests have been performed. We had an increase of 126 cases from Sunday to Monday. A lot of that increase was the failure to report by a number of the labs, and they finally got all of the reporting caught up and current with that 126 increase. The increases were Bernalillo County had 24 cases, Colfax County had 1, Doñana had 4, Eddy County had 1, Grant County had 1, McKinley County had 53, Quay County had 1, Rio Riva County had 1, San Juan County had 18, Sandoval County had 2, and 3 cases in Santa Fe County. Socorro had 11 cases, Taos had 1, Torrance County had 1, and Valencia had 4. We had 3 new deaths from Sunday to Monday, and that raises the total to 58 cases. The model that the experts are following, including the state and the White House, I shouldn't say the state, I believe they are following a model from the labs versus the model that the CDC and NIH is following, is predicting that we'll have approximately 80 deaths through, for a state, through August 4th. The cases are declining, and the span between the dates of doubling of cases is also expanding, which is, according to the model, we're on the downhill side. We've hit the peak, and we're starting on the downhill side of the volume of cases. The hot zones currently remain 566 cases in Bernalillo, 416 cases in McKinley, 317 cases in Sandoval, and 293 cases in San Juan County, which is all very consistent with the modeling that it was going to start in that northwest corner, and that would be serious issues in the northwest corner of the state due to a lot of issues. The Navajo Nation at this point has had 1,197 cases and 44 deaths. Worldwide, as of last night, we had 2,474,054 cases and 161,921 deaths. U.S.-wide, there have been 788,690 cases and 42,263 cases. The hospital, SVH, currently has 5 inpatient. None of them are related to COVID-19. And fortunately, they've done a couple of surgeries. So the hospital is functioning more and more, where they've been so quiet and dormant because of COVID-19 and the state's recommendation to eliminate selective surgeries, that in selective procedures, that they're now starting to see a few cases, and that's really good for the hospital. I think all the hospitals in the state are really experiencing a real decline in services and revenue, which is going to be problematic in the long term. We didn't have any food orders for the day. However, our total population that we've served has been 316 people that the community has provided services to and food to. Now, getting more into the emergency management of what we've been doing, it's mostly what we've been doing as a county. It's emergency management operations. Since the governor's executive order and the Department of Health secretary issued her public health orders, immediately the governor mandated streamlining staff. In response, the county implemented its continuity of operations plan and streamlined the county staff in a couple of different departments. Would like to point out all county offices remain open and have been open the entire time, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, since the pandemic started. We did have to implement some measures to prevent mass gatherings and to protect our staff, but all the offices have been open and available to the public. The county immediately set up a link, and I think this is in coordination with the municipalities, a communications link via the website, through Facebook, and through KCHS, communicating messages out daily. And Paul, the emergency operations manager, handled communications, and I do believe that is a significant factor in why we have 0 cases. Paul communicated a very clear message that the other municipalities, everybody was in agreement with, communicated the message of whatever the precautionary measures were that were established by the governor or the health secretary. Those were communicated out to the public. The public was very responsive in meeting those measures, whether it be social distancing, whether it be wearing masks, was shutting businesses down. The public was very responsive. But I think as a community, we communicated a very clear, succinct message on what to do, and we got the information out to the public very timely, and it was very consistent community-wide. So that, we are a sparsely populated area. However, we have so many transients coming through via the interstate. We have folks coming in from Las Cruces, El Paso, from Socorro, doing shopping on a regular basis that they can't get the goods in their local communities. They've been coming here. But everybody is following the precautionary measures that have been established. Because of hoarding and food shortages, the community organized a food bank to serve individuals suffering food insecurity. We ordered food through Bullocks, and I have to say that Forrest and Bullocks should be recognized as heroes in this community when this is all said and done. At a busy and very trying time in this community, people were going to Bullocks, they're going to Walmart, and the staff at the grocery stores were working frantically to keep stocks and inventory available to the public. Well, in the middle of all that, they also took the time to work with us to order food from a number of different sources. It wasn't just their source, finding food, and to order the bulk food that we were ordering and be able to receive it. Forrest really did yeoman's work in accomplishing that. We made efforts to get it from other sources. It was not available to us. We were denied in most cases. However, Forrest really worked diligently to get us the food. Eloy, Armijo, Ernie, Spike Hernandez, Guillermo, and Michael Hernandez managed the food bank and the distribution. They did a fantastic job. With that, we provided 7 to 10 days of food to, as of this morning, it was 316 people and their families. So it wasn't just giving them food for a meal, it's food for 7 to 10 days of food. And I'd kind of like to show you the food and the type of food that we were giving out to the community.
Please do.
The elusive toilet paper. We have cases and cases of toilet paper for people that are in need of toilet paper. We're able to give that to them. We have several hundred, probably a little over 1,000 packages of toilet paper that we're giving out when requested. We have water, we have pallets of water that we're giving out to families that are requesting it. Tuna fish. We did have a number of requests for meat. We don't have the mechanism in place to store large quantities of meat. We're talking 50, 60 cases of tuna fish that Forrest was able to secure for our community. We're giving multiple packages of tuna fish when we prepare a box. Vienna sausages, beanie weenies, fresh vegetables out of the can, corn, beans, pinto beans, ranch-style beans, refried greens. We were putting those in the packages, as well as numerous cans of soup that we provided. Various types of soup, tomato soup, cream of chicken, cream of celery. A box of crackers was distributed. Multiple packages of ramen noodles were provided to the community. A couple of pounds of pinto beans, as well as a couple of pounds of rice. We provided peanut butter, particularly with the families that had children. make sure they had peanut butter. We had boxes of cookies. We did save these because we had a limited supply. We saved these for families with children. And pancake mix. And we did, again, save these for families with children to give them a little more latitude with the meals for the kids. This box is characteristic of what we provided to the families, although there was much more soup, much more fruit or vegetables, and tuna that we made available to them. So it worked very well that it would not have happened if it would not have been for Forrest and Bullocks and the service they provided to this community. Several days into the pandemic, of course, I mentioned we brought in Travis into the Emergency Operations Center. Thus far, we've submitted for reimbursement for our food, the sanitizer, all the decontamination supplies that we've ordered for our facilities, and the personal protective equipment. We've submitted for reimbursement. It's going to take some time for this to all drill down to where the reimbursement's there, but at this point it's over $51,000 worth of reimbursement that we've submitted, and that's literally 1 month into the pandemic. There's other costs that we've experienced. However, we just don't have the invoices of some of the material we have not received at this point, and we'll submit that as it comes in. We've also provided or coordinated the pandemic with Sierra Vista Hospital, the State Veterans Home, and Sierra Healthcare. We provided these entities with a lot of information as well as personal protective equipment. Emergency Operations provided the hospital 2 boxes of gloves, over 1,400 N95 respirators, 300 procedure masks, a box of gowns, and the hospital was trying to buy a COVID testing machine. Virgin Galactic contacted them and offered to pay $15,000 toward the purchase of that machine. They were not able to get it. The manufacturer could not give it to them based on a hold that the federal government put on all of the testing equipment. So we submitted the request through the Emergency Management Office, through the state EOC, and we have not received a response from them other than a phone call that this is going to be very tricky because they're all in New York. They're all in New Jersey and Michigan at this point. So it's unlikely that we're going to get that, but we did put in a request at the hospital's request. The State Veterans Home, we provided over 1,800 N95 respirators, over 1,000 procedure masks, over 1,300 face shields, over 800 pairs of gloves, and 120 gowns. We provided the Sierra Healthcare Center 3 boxes of gloves, over 180 N95 respirators, over 300 procedure masks. We've also provided law enforcement in the city with N95 masks we made available to them. We purchased a large quantity of hand sanitizer for the emergency services and the healthcare providers because they were experiencing a shortage. We ordered 5 gallons of the material, and we probably used close to 2.5 gallons at this point. We've had to make some changes to the census and the complete count committee, the efforts that are going on to ensure an accurate count and fair representation of Sierra County. We've gone more to a marketing and promoting it through social media, through the newspaper, and through KCHS. We received an additional $14,819 of funding for promoting the census. We can't go door to door. We can't have meetings and gatherings and promote the census in that manner. We can't print any more flyers and hand them out in businesses because most of the businesses are closed. So the committee decided that the best bang for the buck was using that money for promotion of the census. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that concludes my report. Any questions that you may have?
Well, I think that many people are committed and contributing and in this with us. I do think, Bruce, that you have shown exemplary management. I know you've worked 7 days a week. We have appreciated the updates. I don't think that many people know that you made a trip to Albuquerque just to get the hand sanitizer. The efforts in coordination with cities of TRC and Elephant Butte and the village of Williamsburg have been ongoing multiple times a day. You've represented well, but you've also pulled people together. So thank you for your efforts. And we should, when this is done, get Forrest Hill over here and thank him publicly for his efforts. It goes back to that point of hometown. These big box stores are not hurting at all anywhere in the nation. But the little guys at the county level, the mom and pop shops, of which Bullets has been here since the 40s, they continue to support the community, and we really do appreciate it. So thank you for that report.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I appreciate that, and thank you. However, everything related to emergency management goes through Paul Tully, our emergency management officer, and he's done fantastic work. Coordinating 4 different municipalities at a very trying time is very challenging. He's handled that very well, extremely well, and I don't think the county could have handled this event with the resources that we have in such a small community any better than what we have. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
And he also fixes computers that break on an occasional basis, so man of many talents. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Sheriff Hamilton, would you like to address the commission, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Glenn Hamilton. When this thing had originally kicked off, we were aided by the New Mexico Sheriff's Association, specifically Sheriff Shane Ferrari up in San Juan County, who had already been experiencing a few cases, had provided the New Mexico sheriffs with a template for their agency response plan. We were able to take that response plan and custom tailor it to the Sierra County Sheriff's Office. And so that was one of the first things that we had implemented. It's a 3-phase process, and I provided this to that response plan to Paul. It's a 3-phase process. We're currently in phase 1, still at the Sheriff's Office. Basically, we have no cases in Sierra County. Our services remain basically at 100%. We have trimmed off some of the activities that we engage in at the Sheriff's Office, such as our training, with the exception of our IRT team, who continues to we have to keep that training going. But all training and all seminars obviously have been postponed until this is completed. Phase 2, when we do get a case in Sierra County, you can see that we'll back off some additional services there. Some of the provisions that we put in place at the office itself, no members of the public are actually allowed into the cordoned off area where the officers are housed and conduct their day-to-day activities. Our front foyer area, our waiting area there, is sanitized either as soon as we get a customer that comes in or a member of the public that comes in. After they leave, it's sanitized again, and every hour on the hour we're continuing to keep that area clean up there. If for our sex offenders that are having to come in and do face-to-face with our SORNA clerk, we're requiring them to basically glove up and mask up before they enter the secure area back there. So aside from just those provisions, we're pretty much remaining at 100% capacity at the Sheriff's Office. Some of the effects that we've had, the Law Enforcement Academy in Santa Fe has shut their training. We had a cadet that was attending the Law Enforcement Training Academy. They were in week 9, and they went ahead and postponed that, canceled the training, and sent all the cadets home. We did get information a day later from Cabinet Secretary, DPS Secretary there, that one of the employees had a family member who was diagnosed with COVID-19. However, we were assured that the cadets had no contact with that employee while they were at for precautionary measures, we went ahead and placed that cadet or that deputy into a 2-week quarantine. before she was allowed to come back to the office and return to work. She's now returned to work, symptom-free. And we've had 2 unattended deaths that we've taken here in the past couple of weeks, where the OMI wanted to ensure that they weren't COVID-19 related. So tests were conducted, and we had about a 2-day waiting period for those. So those officers or those deputies that were participated in the investigations of those were quarantined until such time as the test results came back. Happy to report that both were negative, and those deputies are now back to full duty. So again, we're continuing to operate at full capacity and taking inventory daily of our PPE, making sure that our deputies, when they are making contact with the public, that they're either providing that member of the public with the PPE, a mask, to use, or the deputy is wearing one. Obviously, rubber gloves. A lot of the sanitizers, the rubber gloves, the PPE that everyone's using, law enforcement's been doing this for years. We've been taking these precautions, so a lot of this is nothing new to us. But we have enhanced it, and we have ensured that we're taking daily counts and making sure that our officers and our deputies continue to have those supplies necessary. I think by the end of the day, we should have our final inventory done of how many we're using per day, and we had a request from the manager, Mr. Swingle, there to make sure that we kind of have a count, so we're not getting up to a point, obviously, where we become critical with those. So again, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? Have you had any requests for assistance on cease and desist orders on small businesses?
Mr. Chairman, so I've actually coordinated some of our efforts with dispatch. Last week when we had the SCRTA board meeting, the governing board met, one of the conversations I had with the director was, because state police services are not dispatched, or state police resources are not dispatched out of our dispatch center. So if you get a 911 call on the interstate that there's a crash, they can actually transfer the 911 call to a state police dispatch center. But a non-emergency call, they were essentially having to take those down, create a CAD incident on it, and then either forward that information to the email address or to the non-emergency number, the reporting number that the state police had provided. So I got with the coordinator and told her, for some of these reports that we're getting, rather than troubling the state police or having them to bring out their resources, that we were willing to go and investigate these to make a determination. I've received 4 complaints over the weekend, and those are the only 4 that we've received since Thursday when we had implemented this. 3 were from the same person on 3 different establishments. One was actually a loud music complaint from one of the individual complaining on his neighbors that had 4 or 5 people in his backyard with him, and I think they were singing karaoke or something. He had a karaoke machine. So it wasn't so much a COVID violation, a COVID order violation, as much as it was a neighbor that was disturbing another individual. So those are the kind of calls that were coming in, and hindsight, now that I look at it, I'm glad that I had that conversation with the dispatch coordinator, mainly because I would have hated for them to dispatch a state police officer all the way out of Socorro to go look at something and investigate something that we could have handled on the local level. So a lot of these, I had the opportunity to speak with Captain Algeier yesterday and pretty much brief him on we call each other once a week just to find out if there's any issues, if there are any concerns, and so we've kept those lines of communication open between the District 11 officers here. Again, not a lot of complaints that are coming in, and there was one that dispatch had reported to the state police about one neighbor in his backyard versus another neighbor in his backyard, and one of the neighbors was coughing in the direction of the other's backyard. So again, to eliminate just these type of calls, we felt it was better to use some of our local resources just to go and check these out. But for the most part, yeah, we've had a few businesses that the state police have issued warnings to, had made phone calls. I did get a call from a local downtown TRC business owner yesterday that had received a cease and desist order from the state police that visited his shop. And so, again, all the more important reason why we need to be working with our business community and with our leaders and our governor to find ways to safely get the town back open again.
You've also done a little closer coordination and assistance to the TRC Police Department, have you not?
We've been working closely with TRC. One of the things that we had done early, after we'd adopted our plan, was kind of set those lines of responsibility. The TRC Police Department and their admin offices have pulled back a lot of their services, their fingerprint services. We've had several folks come to our counter there at the sheriff's office asking for fingerprints, and we've sent them or directed them to contact the police department. Don't know whether they're doing that by appointment only, but a lot of their services, admin services like that, are by appointment only. So yes, we've been working directly with them early on, and we continue to really monitor those citizens out in the county. We've been doing wellness checks out of Lake Valley area, Hillsborough, Kingston, Winston, Monticello, Array area, just making sure that some of those folks that may not have access to the county's webpage or internet services, that they know that the food remedies are available to them. And we've been attempting to identify those folks who are maybe suffering out there, or maybe struggling, so that we can make sure that they're not missed. So early on, a couple of weeks ago, we had started that program and had the opportunity to meet with the deputy chief at the police department and explain to her that if they were pulling back any of their shifts, that some of my deputies may not be available because I've got them out in the far-reaching areas of the county. But for the most part, we've been able to work out those schedules and work out the services and make sure that no one goes without, and that there's a crime committed, that we have folks to investigate it, and the assistance that the PD needs as well.
Questions? Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, a rather lengthy report, but I think it's very timely. I think Sierra County citizens should rest assured that our governmental services continue, and the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens in Sierra County and the visitors are our primary concern. Thanks to Manager Swingle, to Emergency Operations Chief Tooley, and to the Sheriff for continuing those. I do understand that most of the county services are available by appointment. Most of the doors are locked except for our admin building here. So if you do have things for the clerk, the assessor, the treasurer, that sort of thing, they need to call and make an appointment, and they will be accommodated. Okay, we'll move on. I see nothing on the Board of Finance. Is that correct, Manager Swingle?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that is correct.
And we have no old business?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that is correct. No new business.
So then we'll go to new business, direct publication of fire ban ordinance 20-001. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Every year about this time of year, we ask that the Commission direct staff to publish the fire ban ordinance for the potential of future drought conditions. So we're asking that you allow us to post and publish the ordinance. It does not enact the ordinance, it is just making it available for everyone to review and consider.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Luna makes a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Day seconds.
Motion and second. Roll call, Ms. Berg?
Commissioner Paxton,
Yes.
Commissioner Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Luna. Yes.
Motion passes. We'll go to the Fire Protection Annual Review, fiscal year 19, for all of the county fire departments. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. Yes, annually the fire funds, fire protection funds, are evaluated, audited, in other words, by the state. They've conducted their audit for FY19 and determined that all of Sierra County's fire departments are in compliance with Article 53 of the Fire Protection Fund. and Title 10, Chapter 25, Part 10 of the Public Safety and Law Enforcement Fund. So congratulations to Director Tooley and all of the fire chiefs for doing stellar work in maintaining good use of tax dollars.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move to, Commissioner Day moves to approve the fire protection annual reviews from FY19.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Luna seconds.
Moved and seconded. A vote? Clerk Shelley?
Commissioner Paxson,
Yes.
Commissioner Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Luna, yes.
Motion passes. And thanks to our chiefs for that. Director Tooley, good job on all our fire departments. The State of New Mexico Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management Grant Agreement, Operation Stone Garden. Sheriff Hamilton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Glenn Hamilton. This is the continuing funding that we had started about 18 months ago with the Operation Stone Garden Grant funds. And basically, the federal government and Department of Homeland Security, State of New Mexico provides us with this funding in which to conduct additional patrols and help out in the enforcement and referral of some of the individuals who, during the investigation of some of these state violations, if we have reason to believe that the individual may possibly be undocumented or in the country illegally, then we provide that information to the Border Patrol as part of this grant project. Again, we're not engaged in border enforcement and or immigration enforcement in any way, shape, or form. This is they essentially pay us to go and conduct additional patrols within the county. It's one of the services even during this pandemic that we have maintained. So this is continuing funding, I believe, through June 30th of 2021.
Mr. I have just one question. So, Sheriff, on this, is this 146,000 additional from last year, or is it just a continuation plus some funds?
Mr. Chairman, Sheriff Hamilton here. Commissioner Day, it is in addition to the funds that we received last year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Other questions?
No.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Day moves to approve the agreement from the Department of Homeland Security and Sierra County.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Luna seconds.
Moved and seconded. Roll call?
Commissioner
Shelley?
Paxson,
Yes.
Commissioner Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Luna, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sheriff. Direction to staff to prepare comments on the Mexican Wolf 10J draft environmental impact statement from Fish and Wildlife Service, Manager Swingle.
Mr. Chairman, at the Commission's request, Commissioners, at the Commission's request, we were asked to bring this matter to the table today to have a discussion. There are planning some revisions to the Endangered Species Act, and with respect to the non-essential experimental population of the Mexican gray wolf. And I think it's time for us to have a discussion. If we want the county, if you'd like to direct us to respond to the comment period.
Input, commissioners?
This is Commissioner Day here, Mr. Chair, and Bruce, thank you for bringing this to us. We've been involved in this process from the get-go, so I definitely think we need to be involved in submitting comments. It clearly states what they're looking for comments on, and I think there's a lot of data that we can provide from our local ranchers and the local impact. I certainly don't think this is a time where we just submit a letter or resolution saying we don't support it. We need to give them data and specific information on why we oppose it. So I'm definitely in support of submitting comments on it, and will help in any way I can.
Commissioner Luna?
Chairman, Commissioner Luna, I agree 100% with Commissioner Day's comments, and I will make a motion to direct staff to prepare comments based on the facts from our ranchers, not with a statement saying we don't like it.
Commissioner Day seconds that.
Before we vote, I just got an update on the wolf program, monthly update, and I see that there are 24 depredation calls this year. 2 of those are in Sierra County. There's only 3 in Arizona from January 1st to yesterday's date. It concerns me greatly that the population increase has been mostly in New Mexico over the last 2 to 3 years. And I do think that we want to maintain our stance that goes back to 1994 with the commission objecting to the Mexican wolf program being forced upon us. But I agree with Commissioner Day that we need to do that with data and actual facts and impacts that include the economic hardships on our citizens. I just had a conversation recently with a rancher who talks about calving is down, and he thinks that it's nerves within the herd that keep them from settling and may have something to do with the calving rates. There are papers on that, so we will want to dedicate some time to this and have a robust package that we enter before the deadline on that. So with that, Clerk Shelley, would you do a roll call?
Commissioner Paxson,
Yes.
Commissioner Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Luna. Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Manager Swingle, we have no contracts, agreements, or procurements.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that is correct.
So we'll go to resolutions. Resolution 108069, requesting implementation of New Mexico Business Coalition's plan to get New Mexicans back to work. We do have a handout. Commissioner Swingle, would you care to discuss or lead us into the resolution?
I would, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the model of the resolution has been drafted by the New Mexico Business Coalition, which has been submitted to the governor with a lot of input from the business community. Sierra County is a unique community. We have had 0 cases. Essential businesses are operating with some parameters. The gist of our resolution is to allow what's been deemed as non-essential businesses, allow them to function as well with the same parameters, 20% occupancies, personal protective equipment that's needed as necessary. Based on the public comment that you read into the record today, there was a lot of, it appeared that folks think that the county commission have the authority to implement this and you can open businesses up. This is not the case. The case is the governor has to approve this. She has to make the decision to open the economy up again, put people back to work, open businesses again. So the gist of this is to get that started in a very measured way. There will be a lot of people that are commenting on the practical aspect of it and how you implement it. That is going to be in the governor's domain. But a lot of research went into the New Mexico Business Coalition's efforts and their final product that they prepared. And it looks very, very good for Sierra County. If non-essential or essential businesses can work under these parameters, so can non-essential businesses. There's no difference. The pandemic and the impact, the health issue and the health risks and the number of people infected and the number of people that, that unfortunately die from this virus, that is going to be a significant impact on this state, on this country. However, the long-term impact here is the economy and getting people back to work. By putting so many more people in poverty, are we doing it? I remember one of the comments that you read were that, the cure may be worse than the disease. Well, I'm not trying to make that argument. It's just the impact of putting these people in poverty, the behavioral health issues that are going to stem from this pandemic, and the longer the duration, the more impact it's going to have. We have a state park here. There is no reason why we can't open those state parks and engage in social distancing at the state park. Allow people to go fishing. Fishing by its very nature is solitude, and you don't dare encroach on one man or person's fishing area. You stay a significant distance, and it's far greater than 6 feet. These things can be done and open it up, and the health, the benefits of this to just the emotional and behavioral health benefits are amazing. So, Mr. Chair, I'll leave that to the Commission for discussion.
Okay. Any discussion, Commissioner Luna?
Discussion.
Okay, go right ahead.
So I think Bruce said it, but I want to make it perfectly clear. We do not get to just open up the county. We don't get to just say, you can handle social distancing. I can now go get my roots colored. We can't do that. So this simply just asks the governor to consider Sierra County as an isolated case and let us be responsible adults and handle our own safety and open up by the process laid out within the resolution. This resolution by no means lets businesses open. So I want to make that perfectly clear for all the people commenting on Facebook right now, all the people listening on the radio, all the people who submitted public comments. We don't have that authority. So we're just asking the governor to look at us as an isolated incident and look at it county by county instead of as a blanket ruling, her order as a blanket ruling. I found it interesting, and I said to get my roots colored because I need them. And the New Mexico Salon and Barbershop Association actually has a petition submitted to allow one-on-one contact with salons across the state coming May 1st. They already are state required to take measures so that they don't contaminate one person to another person before this happened. And so to close non-essential businesses such as barbershops and salons without looking at the state regulations they are already required to follow, that's the cleanest, safest place any of us could go, more so than the hospital likely. So we, I personally feel like it was, a response to a panic. We didn't seriously think this out. And I say she did not seriously think this out. We are going to have a serious depression and economic downfall. It doesn't just affect the state of New Mexico and the state's budget, but it affects and is going to directly impact Sierra County residents with the lack of gross receipts dollars. There's someone commented under our commission live stream, keep the lakes closed until July 1st. The financial impact of that, I think, can never truly be recognized, but it will never be recovered from. I believe 100% in the social distancing that takes place at the lakes, and fishing and boating and all of those things. And yet I had someone comment to me, if we open the lakes, all the people who have lake houses are gonna bring their friends and we don't know if they're contaminated. But here's the deal. We have people coming from other counties, other towns, shopping here because we don't have a case. We're already opening our doors because we don't have a case. People feel safer here than they do somewhere else. So I think that we have to be responsible, and if you want to stay at home because you are high risk and you want to have someone drop your groceries off and you want to sterilize them before you bring them in your house and you want to take all those precautionary measures because that's what makes you feel safe, that's fine. But at the same time, I grabbed a cart from a man in Tractor Supply's parking lot on Sunday and said, I'll take that back to you. And he said, but it hasn't been sterilized. I said, it's okay, I can do that. I pulled the hand sanitizer out of my purse, wiped my hands down, and we went on and went shopping. I think you have the broad spectrum, the whole gamut here. And so with that, I will make a motion, we approve Resolution 10969, requesting the governor to implement the New Mexico Business Coalition's plan to get New Mexicans back to work.
Before we vote,
I have some
Commissioner Day,
comments.
I'd like you to,
Motion.
we have a motion, but go ahead.
So I just want to make some comments
Pre-vote.
before seconding that motion. I 100% agree with what Bruce said, what Commissioner Lewis said. You know, we'll get through this health pandemic. I feel very confident in that. The economic pandemic that's going to follow terrifies me. I think we're at the point where the solution is causing more of a problem than the actual health pandemic. I've talked to a lot of our local business owners here, and they honestly don't know how much longer they can keep their doors open before, you know, the restrictions are lifted. We have farmers still cultivating their crops, harvesting their crops. No one to sell it to because demand has dropped. We have a dairy that is dumping milk because demand is diminished because the restrictions have been put on. That's dumping income on the ground, and they don't know how much longer they can do it. You know, we have a state park that you can't even walk your dog on right now. I mean, we're at that point, and you know, we're on the downward slide in New Mexico, and Sierra County, we don't have a case, and I think that's because people are social distancing and following the guidelines put forward by the CDC. And so we've got to do something as a state, or else we're going to be feeling this for years. And I'm terrified of doing budget this year. You know, it's always a prediction on what GRTs are coming in at, and this year it's a toss-up. It really is. And I keep feeling for our small business owners, because a lot of them don't know what their future looks like right now. So with that, I will second Commissioner Nuna's motion.
Before we vote, I have just two things that I want to input here. And one thing is, we're a small county. We have a plethora of family businesses who work month to month to keep their businesses open and pay their employees. We've seen the federal impetus dry up on the payroll protection plan. I know a lot of people have not gotten this mythical check that's going to bail them out. I don't know what a non-essential business is. Those people who invest savings and sweat equity and effort into putting businesses forward so that the public can enjoy them and use them are the lifeblood of this economy in Sierra County. If Elephant Butte and Caballo Lake stay closed, we'll see the trading posts and the businesses south of town dry up, but it will be a huge impact on the city of Elephant Butte. And many of those businesses will just simply go away and weeds will grow up where they are now. The other thing that I have an extreme concern with is I've got two family members who need medical attention. One has a foot injury that, EMT paramedics said it's a torn tendon. That person's also a family member. She can't even get in to have it looked at. She cannot get an appointment. Telemedicine does not work when you're on crutches. I've got another family member who had elective surgery that is critical to his health, scheduled for April 10th. The surgery has not even been rescheduled. He has no target date when it will happen. Those people with cancer treatments, those people with COPD, those people with diabetes, those heart disease, those people are not being seen by the medical community. Our census at Sierra Vista Hospital has been 0 until this last weekend when it was 2 and now it's 5. Those are people who had to come to the emergency room, and there they were taken temperature and asked several questions to determine if they were at risk for COVID before they could be admitted. This is not providing care health and safety to our citizens. And I am extremely frustrated that we cannot do more because, like Commissioner Luna said, it's not in our ability to authorize businesses to open. This is a plea to the governor to consider our situation, to consider that why are the essentials working in big box businesses and our local entities, our law enforcement, our EMS, our health and safety, fire, why are we not seeing an increased incidence of COVID-19 in those individuals? Because they're taking precautions, because they're using common sense, because they're abiding by the guidelines from the CDC and our president. And we can do that and still go fishing. We can do that and still go get a coffee and a donut. And some of the restaurateurs that I've talked to have said they're willing to do 20% occupancy for a time. But I think if we don't get our businesses operating, the county will be less able to provide services and health, safety, and our way of life for our citizens. So we have a motion by Commissioner Luna and a second by Commissioner Day, Vice Chair Day. So will you do a roll call?
Commissioner Paxson,
Yes, resoundingly.
Commissioner Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Luna. Yes.
The motion passes, and it will be sent to the governor in the next day. Manager Swingle?
Yes, sir. It will be communicated to the governor's office with a cover letter immediately.
In a most respectful way to help us get this little county, this state, and this nation back to business.
Mr. Chair, one thing, can we also send it to the Secretary of Department of Health, since we do specifically list them in the resolution? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Noted. Resolution 108070, designating the location of Election Day polling places for elections conducted in 2020 and 2021. Manager Swingle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I will defer this to the county clerk. It's a resolution designating the location of Election Day polling places for all statewide elections conducted 2021.
Ms. Trujillo.
This is just, we have to do it in resolution. All of our polling places are VCCs, and none of them have changed. So we still have all the same polling places.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
This is Commissioner Dana. I just have a question for our clerk. Can you please provide an update on kind of some of the election procedures? I know there was a Supreme Court decision. Can you kind of give the public an update on that process and what was decided and how the clerks are moving forward?
Okay, thank you. So the Supreme Court says we are going to send an application for an absentee ballot to every qualified voter, which means if you're Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, you will receive an application for an absentee ballot. Because of this pandemic, they are recommending absentee voting. We will also have early voting in the clerk's office, and we will have election day voting at our polling places around the county, with the exception of 2 polling places, which will be in the amendment after this resolution.
Clerk Trujillo, when does early voting begin?
May 5th,
May 5th, okay.
and that is the last day you can register to vote as well, or change your party affiliation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I just, more than anything, I think for the public, I think it's important for them to know kind of the history and what this pandemic means for voting in this election. My personal opinion, I think the Supreme Court absolutely got it 100% right. You cannot have a mail-in ballot unless it's a special election, and I 100% agree with their decision. And I'll still encourage people to turn in absentee ballots and that request them. I think that's fair for the clerk's affiliate and the Supreme Court to ask for. I think it's completely fair. I was a little, to be honest, disappointed with the clerk's affiliate that they immediately went to the Supreme Court to ask for ask for a mail-in ballot or mail-in election. But that's just my opinion, and we've moved forward toward primary. So thank you.
Right, and it's only for the primary election. The general election will be run regularly,
Perfect.
as of now.
As of right. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, sir. Attorney Peto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you know who's going to be paying or bearing the cost of mailing out those applications for absentee ballots? The state can reimburse the counties for that cost.
So the applications that will be going out to the voters, the state is going to pay for.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's good news.
Yes, it is.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Day moves to approve resolution number 108-070.
Commissioner Luna seconds.
Moved and seconded. Roll call?
Commissioner Paxson?
Yes.
Commissioner Luna? Yes. Commissioner Day?
Yes.
Motion is approved. And then subsequent to that is an amendment, 108-071, amendment to the designated location of primary election day polling places. Clerk Trujillo, you have something else to add?
So this resolution is because of COVID-19, we are not going to have the number of poll workers that we're going to need. So we are trying to amend our polling places, and we are going to remove the Albert Lyon Event Center and the Caballo Fire Station only for the primary election. And if this is approved, it will go to a district judge to be signed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Clerk, can you tell us why you chose those two locations?
Because Caballo is a smaller, and we've got Array on one side and we've got Hillsborough, which they can go to either one. You can vote anywhere in the county. So we also have the Civic Center, which is a big polling place. And it's hard to staff them.
I just didn't know if they had lower numbers or if it was
They
locations
do.
or what it was, and so thank you for the explanation.
Mr. Chair, I just have one question. This is Commissioner Day.
Go ahead.
Madam Clerk, is it typically hard to staff all of the precincts, or is it are you finding it just because of the COVID-19?
Typically, yes, it's hard to staff. More so now because 65% of our poll workers are over the age of 60 in this county. And we've sent out letters to all of our poll workers, waiting for a response from them to see if they are going to be able to work. Some of them have already called and said no. So we are allowed to have a minimum of 3 poll workers per polling place, and that's what we're trying to do. We're encouraging absentee voting, first of all. If you want to go to a polling place, you might have to wait due to social distancing and how many people can be in there and everything like that, so.
Thank you for that. That certainly answers my question. And answer my next question, actually. So, the clerk's office has reached out to our poll workers, and you have. So, thank you for that. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Day moves to approve resolution number 108-071.
Okay.
Commissioner Luna seconds.
Moved and seconded. A roll call?
Commissioner Paxson?
Yes.
Commissioner Day?
Yes.
Commissioner Luna?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have one follow-up question.
Please, go ahead. Yes.
Madam Clerk, you said that this would have to go to a district judge to sign off on?
Yes.
There's no expected problem with that?
I'm almost positive that the district judges are aware that some of these counties will be eliminating polling places. No, I don't think there will be a problem with that.
And Mr. Chair, if I just can follow up on that. I think the Supreme Court even said that they encourage clerks to close down some of those lower polling places. I certainly don't think the district courts are gonna throw a hiccup in that.
Right, I just was trying to follow. Thank you.
That's good. Okay, we come to the end of our agenda, except for the executive session. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Luna makes a motion to go into executive session pursuant to section 1015 E through H to discuss pending and threatened litigation, personnel, and real estate as listed on the agenda.
Commissioner Day seconds.
Moved and seconded. Roll call?
Commissioner Paxson?
Yes.
Commissioner Day?
Yes.
Commissioner Luna?
Yes.
So the motion is approved. I think this will probably end our broadcast. There's one thing I want to add just before we go. The census is so important to us. For every man, woman, and child in Sierra County, the county gets approximately $3,900 per individual for 10 years until the next census. So that's $39,000 that go direct to county services. We know that our gross receipts tax are going to be dismal this year. I would encourage everyone to do the census. I hear some people that don't want their government to know that they're out here. They don't want the government sticking their nose in their business. The census is not about the government. It's about giving us an accurate count. We've been in a downward trend for about 20 years. We would like to see what our real population numbers are in Sierra County. So if you will, you can do it online. You don't have to have the number. You can go online and do it without the number that comes in the mail. So please, do the census and help us out with getting an accurate determination. 24% respondents does not bode well. They've actually extended the census, have they not, Mr. Manager? So we still have time, but we're asking you folks to help us out. I want to thank you too for being here today with us in a vicarious mode online. I really appreciate Chief Tooley for getting this set up and working. We don't know, we may be doing this again next month, but we will have a commission meeting a month from now, and we'll look forward to your involvement. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chairman, if we might be able to put that on hold, so that way the public can watch us come back into the open meeting, close it out and adjourn.
Our attorney suggests that we will be on hold till we get done with executive session, and that's agreed to. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.